Picture this. A Wednesday night. October in Charlotte. You're walking down the hallway of the house you built, not figuratively, literally. You poured the foundation 26 years ago, framed the walls, picked every fixture with the woman you married. You reach the bedroom door. Your bedroom. The one with the bay window overlooking the magnolia you planted the year your daughter was born. The door is locked. You knock. Not hard. Just a question. Your wife opens it 3 inches. She's in pajamas, face washed, ready for bed. She looks at you the way you'd look at a salesman who rang the bell during dinner. "Don't come to bed tonight," she says. Not yelling, not crying, not explaining. 5 words. Flat as a kitchen counter. Then she closes the door. You stand there. 31 years of marriage. A house you built with your hands. And this woman, the one you carried through the front door in 1993, just shut it in your face. That was my hallway. My door. My wife. My name is Tom Mercer. I'm 58 years old. And what I did next kept her awake too. Carol and I met in Charlotte in 1990. I was a structural engineer at a firm in South End. She was doing marketing for a real estate developer off East Boulevard. She had this way of leaning her head when she listened. Made you feel like the only person in the room. We married in 93. Built the house in Dilworth in 98. Our daughter Emma came in 95. She's 30 now, lives in Raleigh, works in healthcare. For 25 years, we had something good. Not movie good. Real good. Saturday breakfast at Amelie's French Bakery. Evening walks through Freedom Park when the weather allowed. I'd grill. She'd pour the wine. We'd sit on the back porch and listen to nothing. That was us. I remember a night in 2011. Emma was in high school. Carol and I were on the back porch after dinner. She put her feet in my lap and said, "Promise me we'll still do this when we're old." I promised. She closed her eyes and smiled. That smile. I'd build another house for that smile. Things shifted when I went semi-retired 3 years ago. Carol had stopped working a year before that, took a buyout from the developer. She started filling time with new circles, a women's networking group, wine tastings in Ballantyne. Then she found Gina Tate. Gina was a life coach. That's what her Instagram said. Carol started seeing her twice a week. $150 a session. Within 2 months, Carol was using words like emotional bandwidth and recalibrating my needs. She'd come home from Gina's sessions with a different look, not happier, harder, like she'd just been reminded of a grudge she'd forgotten to hold. The distance came in layers. First, she stopped sitting on the porch with me. Then she stopped asking about my projects. Then the bedroom door started closing 15 minutes before I came upstairs. I told myself it was retirement. Adjustment. 2 people finding a new rhythm after decades of the old one. Then came the locked door. "Don't come to bed tonight." I walked downstairs. Guest room. Single bed, bare walls, the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort you. It sits on your chest. I stared at the ceiling until 2 in the morning. Not thinking. Just lying there, trying to understand how you build a house and end up homeless inside it. Thursday morning. She came down at 7. Coffee. Phone. Didn't look up. "Morning," I said. Nothing. She scrolled through something on her screen, and for the first time in 31 years, I felt like a stranger in my own kitchen. The woman across the island used to reach for my hand while reading the paper. Now she wouldn't look up from her phone. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the door stayed locked. I tried once more on Sunday. Knocked gently. "Carol, can we talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about, Tom." Gina says couples our age need to re-establish boundaries. Boundaries. A word she never used before Gina. Now it came out like a weapon she'd been handed. I called my buddy Dave Holloway that afternoon. Not as a lawyer, not yet. Just as a friend. Dave and I worked together for 12 years before he switched to family law. He'd been through his own divorce 8 years ago. Quiet. Clean. Aged him a decade. "She locked you out," Dave said. Not a question. Going on 5 days. "Tom, that's not a mood. That's a message." I told him I didn't want a lawyer. I wanted my wife back. Which wife? The one from the porch or the one behind the locked door? I didn't have an answer. Monday morning. I was reviewing our joint credit card statement online, something I'd done every month for 20 years. This time, I actually looked. Stay with me here. $11,000 in charges I didn't recognize. A boutique on Providence Road, $1,600. A spa weekend at the Ballantyne Hotel, $2,200. 3 dinners at a restaurant called Stagioni, $400 each time. All in the past 6 weeks. all while she was telling me we needed to be mindful about spending. I scrolled further. Gina Tate's coaching fees. $1,800 in 2 months. $1,800 for a woman to teach my wife how to lock me out of my own bedroom. I sat with it for an hour. Coffee went cold. Then I picked up the phone and called the credit card company. Canceled her card. Not the account. Not the joint access. Just her physical card. Cut it off. Issued myself a new number. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I was funding a life I'd been locked out of. You can't shut someone out of the bedroom and expect them to keep the lights on. She found out at lunch. Tuesday. Her card declined at a restaurant in South Park, a place she'd never mentioned. My phone rang at 12:33. What did you do to the card? Not hello. Not Tom. The accusation. I canceled it. You what? You locked me out of the bedroom, Carol. I locked you out of the account. Now we're even. 3 seconds of silence that felt like 30. You can't do that. I just did. This is financial abuse, Tom. Gina says. Gina charges us $1,800 a month to dismantle our marriage. Maybe ask Gina to cover lunch. She hung up. I sat at the kitchen table, heart pounding, but my hands were steady. First time in a week. Wednesday evening. I came home and the house smelled different. Carol had cooked. Not reheated, cooked. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, the good plates. Candles on the dining table. A glass of wine already poured for me. She was standing by the stove in a dress I hadn't seen in 2 years. She smiled at me. An actual smile. I overreacted, she said. The door thing. I was overwhelmed. Gina pushed me into something I wasn't ready for, and I took it out on you. She reached across the table and touched my hand. I miss us, Tom. I miss the porch. I looked at her. The evening light through the window. Her hand on mine. My chest opened like a wound that had stopped bleeding but never healed. For 30 minutes, I had my wife back. The one from 2011. The one from the porch. I'll reactivate the card, I said. She smiled. Thank you. That night, the bedroom door was unlocked. She left it open. I stood in the hallway looking at it. An invitation that felt like a question I wasn't sure I could answer. But I walked through. Because 31 years of loving someone doesn't switch off because you know better. Thursday, she asked about my consulting project. Listened. Nodded. Even laughed at something I said about the contractor messing up the drainage. Friday, she suggested we drive out to Asheville for the weekend. Like we used to. Saturday morning, she made breakfast. Sat on the porch with me. Coffee in her hands, feet tucked under her. Like old times, she said. And for those 4 days, I almost believed it. Sunday evening. I came home from the gym early. Front door unlocked. Carol's voice carried from the kitchen. Speakerphone. Gina's voice. Did it work? Carol. Like clockwork. Salmon. Wine. Touched his hand. Card reactivated in 20 minutes. Gina laughed. I told you. Men his age are predictable. Warmth is currency. You spend a little, you withdraw a lot. Carol. He even came back to the bedroom. Gina, it's almost too easy. Good. Now the account at Pinnacle. How much have you moved this month? I stood in my own foyer, keys still in my hand. The floor dropped. Account at Pinnacle? We banked at First Horizon. Always had. Carol. $1,200. He won't notice. I split it into 3 transfers. Gina. Perfect. By January, you'll have enough for the deposit. Then we moved to Phase 3. Phase 3. Of what? I backed out the front door. Got in my truck. Drove to the Harris Teeter parking lot on East Boulevard. Sat there for 30 minutes. Engine off. Hands on the steering wheel. A man in a parking lot who just found out the last 4 days were a performance. And the performance worked. I texted Dave Holloway. 2 words. I need help. He called back in 3 minutes. Didn't ask what happened. Just said, my office. Tomorrow morning. Bring everything. I sat in that parking lot a little longer. Watched the streetlights come on. Charlotte at dusk. Beautiful city. I'd helped design 2 buildings on the skyline. I could solve load-bearing calculations in my sleep. But I couldn't figure out when my wife became someone I didn't recognize. Dave pulled records that week. What he found made my throat close. Carol had opened a separate checking account at Pinnacle Financial 8 months ago. Steady transfers from our joint savings. $300 here, $500 there. Total moved, $19,000. Plus a credit card I didn't know existed. $27,000 in charges over 9 months. Spa weekends. A trip to Savannah I wasn't told about. Furniture purchases shipped to an address on Selwyn Avenue I'd never seen. She'd been furnishing an apartment. 8 months. While I made her coffee every morning. While I tried to understand why my wife went cold. While I slept alone staring at the ceiling of the guest room. She was building a separate life with our money. Tom, Dave said, watching my face. This isn't a woman going through a rough patch. This is a woman executing a plan. I sat in his office on Tryon Street. Afternoon light through the blinds. Traffic humming below. Normal sounds for a day that wasn't normal at all. What do? You protect yourself. Quietly. Before she finishes whatever she started. Dave helped me open a separate account. We moved my consulting income there. I froze joint access to savings. Dave handled the paperwork. I photographed every financial document in the house. Organized everything into a folder. All quiet. All careful. And every evening, I came home. Made dinner. Watched TV in the guest room. Said good morning. Said good night. She had no idea. Here's the thing about withdrawal. People think it's a strategy. It wasn't. I just had nothing left to give. The salmon dinner took whatever was remaining. When she laughed on that speakerphone. It's almost too easy. Something inside me went quiet. Not angry quiet. Empty quiet. Monday. No good morning. She checked the hallway at 7:15. I saw her shadow pause outside the guest room door. I stared at the ceiling and didn't move. Tuesday. She mentioned she was thinking about hosting a dinner party. That's nice, I said. Went back to my book. She stood in the doorway for 10 seconds waiting for more. There wasn't more. Wednesday. I went to the gym instead of fixing the kitchen faucet she'd asked about twice. Since when do you go to the gym? She asked when I came back. Since today. Thursday. She made coffee for both of us. Left mine on the counter with a note. Have a good day. I stared at it for a long time. Then poured it out. Not to hurt her. Because the last time she'd been kind, she'd been rehearsing. Friday. She suggested we drive to Asheville. Our place. The one memory she knew still worked. I'm meeting Dave for coffee, I said. Her jaw tightened. You're always with Dave now. Dave doesn't charge me $1,800 a month for the privilege of his company. She went quiet. That one landed. The second week was harder. She started hovering. Following me from room to room. Standing in doorways. Watching me read. Watching me cook. Watching me exist without reaching for her. Like she was studying a machine that stopped working and couldn't find the broken part. You're punishing me, she said one evening. Arms crossed in the kitchen doorway. I'm not punishing anyone. I just don't have anything left to give. That's the same thing. No. Punishing would mean I still care what you feel. I'm past that. Her face changed. Not angry. Scared. The kind of fear a chess player gets when they realize the board shifted without them noticing. Saturday. Our daughter Emma drove down from Raleigh. Unannounced. She walked in and read the house in 10 minutes. Dad, why are you sleeping in the guest room? Your mother and I are working some things out. Emma looked at me. Then at Carol in the kitchen. Then back at me. No, you're not, she said quietly. You're not working anything out. You're both just waiting for the other one to leave. Kids see everything. Even the grown ones. The withdrawal hit Carol hard the second week. She started hovering. Following me between rooms. You're being distant, she said. Arms crossed in the kitchen doorway. Same posture as the bedroom door. I'm being honest. What does that mean? It means I used to try. Now I don't. That's not distant, Carol. That's done. Something shifted in her face. Fear. Real fear. Not the kind she performs for Gina. The kind that shows up when someone realizes the ground moved without them feeling it. Tuesday evening. She tried one more time. Left a handwritten letter on the kitchen table. 3 pages. About our early years. The first apartment off Park Road. The road trip to Savannah when the car broke down. The night Emma was born, and I couldn't stop crying in the hallway. She wrote about how retirement scared her. How she felt invisible. How Gina made her feel like she mattered. I don't know who I've become, she wrote. But I know I don't want to lose you. I read it twice. My hands were shaking. Because this felt real. Not the salmon dinner real. Underneath everything real. The Carol who was terrified, not the one who calculated. Both existed. Both were honest. That was the part that broke me. I almost called her. Almost walked upstairs and knocked on that door. Then I opened Dave's folder. $19,000. A furnished apartment. And a new charge on the Pinnacle card, dated 2 days after she wrote the letter. Another deposit. $800. The letter was real. The money was still moving. You know that moment when you realize the person you married can feel love and self-interest at the exact same time, and both of them are genuine? That's the moment the marriage died. Not the locked door. not the canceled card. That same week, Dave called me with something else. He'd been looking into Gina Tate. Not because I asked, because he recognized the pattern. Tom, Gina's had 6 clients in the last 3 years who went through divorces. 6. Same coaching program. Same safety net language. Same sequence. Isolate, stockpile, provoke. 6. One of them is a woman named Lori Pratt. Her ex-husband is a contractor I know. Same story. Locked out, frozen out, money moved. Gina coached her through every step. By the time the husband caught on, she had $70,000 in a separate account. I sat with that. Carol wasn't Gina's project. Carol was Gina's product. One of 6. Same playbook. Same phases. Same words. Warmth is currency. I wondered how many other men were sitting in guest rooms right now, staring at ceilings, not knowing the script had already been written. I called Dave Wednesday morning. File the papers. The confrontation came Thursday evening. I'd planned to do it calmly. Almost succeeded. I set the folder on the kitchen table. Bank statements. Transfer records. The Pinnacle account. The apartment lease on Selwyn Avenue. Carol went white. Not red, white. Drained of color in a way I'd never seen. Where did you get this? Does it matter? You went through our savings. For 8 months. While cooking me salmon and telling me you missed the porch. She sat down hard. Like the strings got cut. Tom, let me explain. You have a furnished apartment on Selwyn Avenue. $19,000 in a separate account. A credit card with $27,000 on it that I didn't know existed. And your life coach, the one we've been paying $1,800 a month. She's been running a script. Warmth is currency. Your words. On speakerphone. In our kitchen. Her eyes filled. That's not what it sounds like. It sounds like my wife of 31 years built an exit and expected me to fund it. She broke. Not the Gina tears. Not the salmon dinner performance. She broke the way I'd broken that first night in the guest room. Honestly, completely, and too late to matter. Gina said every woman needs a safety net, she whispered. 3 of her clients went through divorces and had nothing. She said I needed to be ready. Ready for what? You weren't in danger, Carol. You were in a marriage. I was invisible, Tom. I retired and I disappeared. Nobody needed me. Not the office. Not Emma. And you just kept going. Your projects. Your friends. You didn't slow down. I looked at you and thought, he doesn't need me either. I needed you every single day. You locked the door. Silence. The kitchen clock. The fridge humming. The magnolia tapping the window upstairs, the way it always did in October wind. Nothing else. Here's what I can't get past, I said. You locked me out of our room. You laughed about manipulating me on the phone. You moved our money for 8 months. And then you wrote me a letter about the night Emma was born. And meant it. Both things were true. And that's the part I'll never understand. She stared at her hands on the table. No answer. There wasn't one. Gina told me you'd never notice, she said finally. Small voice. She said men like you never look at the details. I'm an engineer, Carol. Details are literally all I do. I let the silence sit for a moment. The magnolia tapped the window upstairs. Same sound I heard every October since we planted it. You said I was boring, I said. Predictable. Maybe I was. But predictable men don't cancel credit cards at noon on a Tuesday. And boring men don't sit on evidence for 3 weeks while you perform your way through salmon dinners. She had nothing for that. Dave filed papers this morning, I said. Her eyes snapped up. You can't. You said don't come to bed. I'm not coming back to this marriage either. She searched my face for something she could use. Tried one more angle. What about Emma? What will this do to Emma? Emma drove down from Raleigh 3 weeks ago because she could hear in my voice that something was wrong. She told me I was waiting to leave. She was right. So our daughter is on your side now. There aren't sides, Carol. There's what happened and what didn't. You locked the door. You moved the money. You laughed about it on the phone. Those aren't sides. Those are facts. She stared at the table. The fight went out of her like air from a tire. Slow. Complete. I never meant to hurt you, she said. I know. That's what makes it worse. Dave handled everything. The judge saw the transfers, the separate accounts, the furnished apartment. Carol's attorney argued retirement anxiety. Maybe it was. But anxiety doesn't laugh on speakerphone about your husband being predictable. Anxiety doesn't furnish a separate apartment while writing love letters at the kitchen table. 31 years reduced to 6 weeks of paperwork and a signature. I moved into a place off East Boulevard. 2 rooms. More light than I expected. I hung one picture. Emma at 5, standing in front of the magnolia tree with dirt on her hands. First night there. Coffee by the window. Uptown Charlotte glowing in the distance. It was quiet. Not the guest room quiet that sat on your chest. A different quiet. The kind that doesn't ask anything of you. Emma called every Sunday. Are you okay, Dad? Getting there. Mom stopped seeing Gina. She and 2 other clients filed complaints. Apparently Lori Pratt's husband went public. Patterns eat everyone who follows them. For months later, I ran into Carol at the Harris Teeter. Same parking lot where I'd sat in my truck that evening, unable to move. She was loading groceries. I was buying coffee. We stood in the same aisle for a few seconds before she spoke. You look good, Tom. Thanks. So do you. I'm sorry. Not the way I said it before. Really sorry. I nodded. I know. She looked at the ground. Then at me. Do you ever wonder if, no. Gently. I don't. She squeezed my arm. Walked to her car. Saturday morning. Coffee by the window. Charlotte in January. Bare trees, gold light, the city humming below. The apartment was quiet. Not empty quiet. Just quiet. Mine. She told me don't come to bed that night. Turned out, the best thing she ever did was lock that door. Took me 31 years to realize the person keeping me awake wasn't in the guest room. She was on the other side of that lock. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.